juggling fish. And it's like the cord are pulling the fishing boats away. It's just really stupid. So he's drug dealers to the ecosystem by dumping it into the sea. It's just such silly stuff, but it's really hilarious. So you go to the gym much? Cover City stairs?
Once or twice a week.
That's not too bad. How does your back react to it? Last time I'm doing the cover stairs, man, it just...
My back isn't good. I go up once, if I do it twice, I walk around down the street.
I can't walk down the middle. I can only walk up
okay.
and walk down the street because my back keeps giving way. Keeps going. It's getting ever since I went to that chiropractor, it's got worse.
All right, I'm going to go live in a few seconds here.
David and I are back buddies.
Yeah.
I've got a curve in the base of my spine, so it's
All right, here we go, Mingus.
stupid knee.
We're live.
We're live.
Alright! What's up?
There's nobody here yet, so.
Painting with Gabe, or...
Today we have Mingus Johnston. Welcome, Mingus.
Thank you, hello.
And show's over.
Let's see.
And see.
So tell us about the English.
Oh, don't get me started.
All right, so you're going to monitor the online?
I can.
All right. So
Okay.
I will be working on this painting today, and like I said, we have Mingus Johnston from Scotland.
Hello.
Madman. We'll put that in the first part.
Madman.
Actor, filmmaker, videographer, ruffian,
Storyteller. I
storyteller.
have a million stories.
Let's go. Story one.
Story one. I was a lad. This is an ongoing story in LA. So for those of you out there who are trying to make it as an actor, quit now while you've still got time.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to readjust this.
No, in all honesty, keep going, keep on keeping on. When I turned 40, my agent back in the UK told me that you've arrived at the age where actors, if they haven't made it, usually give up. So I thought, great.
That's nice.
You're starting there.
I wasn't starting. I mean, I was
We're 47 now.
47 back then. 40, how dare you?
How dare you?
Thankfully, we'll help oil away and
And good clean living.
pampering and good clean living. I don't eat Chester's, puffs, and corn, but when I do, I eat them quite a lot. I'm actually
You put it in beer like cereal.
He does like cheese poofs.
there's Chester cheese puffs.
Cheesy poof.
I'm not sponsored by them,
like a cheesy poof.
but I'm an addict, and it has
I know you are.
it's been 1 day since my last packet.
Actually, 1 day since
actually
my
less
last
than 1 day. I had one packet last night.
20 hours.
Yes.
When's your last packet of
I'm so
booze?
dramatic. It's terrible.
No.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Acting.
So how did you get into acting?
How did I get into acting?
Yeah, how did you get into acting?
I got into acting
Well, he hasn't yet. That's why he's
back in the day. Wow, how dare you? I was living in Rome. There was, and the irony of this is that there was a group.
There better be irony in this.
There is irony, total irony in this. Because there was a group working with a Scottish woman who was doing a society to help Italians learn English through acting.
Okay.
But the irony was that the majority of the group were from Newcastle. Well, it's like that, what you say tonight? and they can't even speak English themselves, and that's the irony. So they had to incorporate me, who was the best linguistics of the lot.
Of course. The
We
son
did-
of a Lord.
We did a rendition. We did a rendition of West Side Story, so lots of singing and dancing. I was one of the kids. A-Rap.
Okay.
We did that for a year, and then gave one
Did you have long
performance.
hair then? And
I didn't have long hair, but I had a lot of weight. I was I was a heavyweight back in those days. 260 pounds.
260
Yeah.
pounds?
Yeah.
How many stones is that?
19.
19 stone?
All of the stones.
All of the stones.
So it was a mixture of kebabs and pasta and pizza. Don't forget the pizza.
Pizzas, yes. Of course.
So yeah, I got into acting then. I loved it, and I decided to go back and study it in London, and then got into doing short films, music videos. And then I met a casting director when I was working in Soho Hotel, who got me an audition. She got me a second audition, and I was working on a film for 6 months. And then it just kind of went on. Actors
That was
get-
Jack the Giant.
Well, actors get into this thing where if they get into one big film, they think they've made it. I got into 3 big films, and I stupidly thought I made it, spent all my money, and realised I hadn't made it at all. I was completely poor, so I went from tears to glory back to tears again. The
I like
moment,
how there's the opposite of glory is tears.
yes, totally. There is no in between. There is either tears or there's glory. At the moment, I'm like a slug with the wet tears just trail as I go around LA.
In American history, the Trail of Tears means something different.
So yes,
So
that's-
we got a guy, Randy Randy Heitman in Arizona. He's an actor. So
All right.
Keep going, man. Is there?
yeah,
Yep, they're listening.
they're listening.
Let's see here.
So I mean, I have found being over here in LA way better than the UK. Firstly, because of workshops. The quality of workshops in LA are like a mile above that of London. I mean, I've done some workshops in London that were just awful. But then
So why is that?
I don't know why.
Workshops in London?
Yeah, the workshops in London. Unless you're going to really expensive ones with RADA or the Royal Academy or whatever. If you're going for just average everyday workshops, I haven't found, it's very difficult to find ones that are decent. Whereas I found quite a few over here that are decent. I mean,
What qualifies a decent?
they're not just taking your money and making you do silly things. I mean,
Pretend there's a ball in your hand.
yeah, or you're an angel dancing around. And, oh my goodness, I've walked out of those workshops.
You've danced around like an angel?
I dance around like an angel without going to a workshop.
He does that in his
I
spare
don't
time.
need to pay money to other people to then dance around like it, but it has to be dancing around like angels. No, the workshops here are great.
Yeah.
And
'Cause I
they're
think-
reasonable price as well.
So they're not working on you getting rid of your ego or your ambitions and trying to break you down by just making you do goofy things. They're actually breaking into who you are, deeper things of acting kind of thing, or what?
Well, I mean, it's not about, I don't think it's about bringing, I think it's just, I don't know, I think it's just because there's the volume of actors over here and the volume of ex-actors that are doing workshops. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are loads and loads of workshops over here that are just out there to take your money, and they're terrible. And there's lots of different acting methods. I've been to one class, I won't say her name, but she had a method of breaking
with.
But it rhymes with no, I won't tell. I don't want to get myself in trouble. But she had the old Russian method of breaking an actor down to tears, to break them to nothing, to rebuild them, which is BS. It just does not work. I'm not sure if it was Chekhov, but it was the Tolstoy used to do. It was anyway. I came out of a class once. I had to give this guy a big hug because he was almost in tears, just because he did something wrong, and she said that was terrible, it was bad, and okay. And then she went on, and then she went, and I wanted to kind of hold my hand up and say, kind of mercy, because it's totally, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's counterproductive. But anyway, yes. So there's that.
Yeah.
But in general, I love over here. Plus the lifestyle as well. I mean, sun in Scotland, we hope for global warming because one day hopefully it will be warm.
Yeah, Scotland will be in the
We're pumping out the CO2, going, "Come on, sun, where are you? Come on!" But
So it's
yeah,
your fault.
and this is in,
Scottish. We invented that.
global warming in London. When you look out and there's a bit of sun, you go, "Oh, quick run!" And before you get your clothes on, it's gone. But I mean, it hasn't been the best in LA this late though. So
Sunny day today.
it's a sunny day today. It is.
Yep. Well, good that we had rain, I guess.
I mean, everyone I've met in LA has said, "Oh, I'm loving this rain." And I'm going, "No, go to Scotland then. Don't give me your bad juju here. I want sun.
Yeah.
That's all I want. Sun in my bones, sun in my heart, sun in my smile." Sounds a bit corny, but yes.
This is over. We're shutting it off the cameras now.
Oh, this is where I break into song.
Yeah. Too many hugs, too many.
This coffee is pretty good, actually. It's giving me verbal diarrhea.
That's unusual for you.
So you did 3 movies. You did, I remember Jack the Giant Slayer, and then you said the 3 big movies. Was it Mission Impossible? Or
No, the first second one was another Bryan Singer production, You Want Me to Kill Him,
Okay.
which is all based on a true story about the danger of the internet when it just started, and about how you could be anyone you wanted to be if you couldn't see the other person. And it was this real, true story that was, you wouldn't believe it if it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And then I got into another film which wasn't very good, and then I did a few more after that. Yeah, Mission Impossible was a one-line wonder, but it was still quite cool to be flown over to Morocco and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then getting my head smashed in by Elton John.
Huh?
Yep.
That was fun.
I haven't heard that story yet.
Yes.
Yeah, that was in The Kingsman,
You're
right?
holding out on us, man.
Kingsman.
Yeah.
So I'm painting my kitchen. Get a phone call from my agent. How fast can you get down to Hammersmith Apollo, which is like a music venue in London? And I said, why? He said, because you've got an audition there. So I went down. Inside I could hear music playing, and it was Elton John just playing away in between scenes. So they were getting, all the artists were getting, all the actors and whoever there were getting a free concert basically.
Oh, wow.
So he was just, and the whole Apollo was empty, so he's just playing away to himself. So I did an audition for the agent, the director, who was there with his wife Claudia Schiffer, who seems to have been cryogenically frozen and hasn't aged a day. And the next day I was getting slapped by Elton John. So the scene is I'm chatting away to him, he's being kidnapped, and they said, do you mind if he really slaps you? And I thought, go on then. I mean, I suppose it's Elton John. So he said to me, okay, so I have to be honest with you, I've never hit anyone before. I thought, yeah, that'll be right. I didn't obviously say that. So just think of it like it's like my chin is a golf ball. So that when you swing, like when you swing club, if you keep your eye on the ball, you will hit the ball if you keep your eye on it. You might not hit it properly, but you'll still hit the ball. Same with my chin, same with boxing. You keep your eye on the prize, you swing and you will hit what you're swinging at. If you take your eye off, you can hit anywhere. So the first one, he swung, cracks me on the ear. I thought he popped my eardrum. And Elton John's got these little meaty piano hands as well. So I was like, oh no! And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Second one, he got me almost my eye out. Third one, he caught me perfectly, and they didn't get it. And then the fourth one, he almost took my eye out again. So in the film, probably should tell you this, but I don't care. It wasn't a real slap. It was the fake slap they used after my face was completely red from Elton John's slappage. So there you have it.
Elton John slappage.
Slappage. I've been beaten
By Elton John.
by Elton John
Repeatedly.
in front of his husband, actually. So I'm sitting in the audience applauding it all.
Luckily, it wasn't in front of your girlfriend or whatever, was it?
And then proceeded to get my head smashed in by the piano for a good hour after that. That was fun.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
The life of an actor.
Life of an actor. You've got to be willing to take punishment.
From Elton John.
From Elton John, yes. He's very funny though, I have to say, in that movie, and a lot of people, I don't know if anyone will agree with me, but I thought, in that movie, the best actor in Kingsman 2 was Elton John. And had an all-star cast.
Yeah.
He was just brilliant in it.
He was a lot of fun in that. Yeah. It looked like he was having fun too.
He was having lots of fun.
Yeah.
He gets to dress up in his very flamboyant costumes as well.
Doesn't sound like Elton John.
Do all that stuff. I'm quite interested to see Rocket Man.
Yeah, Taron Egerton.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, when I was first in LA, this is a while back, I got to I went to the premiere of Dukes of Hazzard. And Willie Nelson was playing in the premiere, and they shut down Hollywood Boulevard, and I went up to, I was working as an assistant or whatever. I was running the mechanical bull, and we had set everything up, and there's nothing for me to do, and Willie was doing a sound check. And so everybody else, we were all sound people and whatever, and they were setting up the stage at the Chinese Groundland Theater. And I sat down on a bench right in front of the stage, and Willie did a set. Willie did the whole set right in front of me, and I was the only person there. And a lot of the time, he'd just look over at me and point and just keep jamming. And he did 3 songs, and
you got a
personalized concert with Willie Nelson. That was pretty awesome.
That is really awesome.
And I think that in LA, for me, my experience here, that you were talking about London and different places that you've lived, but like from entertainment or you were an aspiring actor or an aspiring actor, that there are opportunities here to run into people, and do things.
Way more than London.
Than where you get more opportunities in those kind of scenarios. A lot of times you're not doing the thing you want.
Yeah, you were going to get slapped by Elton John in Scotland.
I wasn't.
No, I haven't said I got slapped by Elton John in London, but yeah.
Yeah,
but
we're going to have it in Scotland.
But that was because the director's from there. Kingsman was shot a lot over there, right? Because they shot it in Thailand and
places. That goes on to the thing that I still can't work out why California SAG after all shoot themselves in the foot with regards to charging so much money and pushing away all the big films away from California. I still can't get it.
Well, last week we were talking with Tony Leach, a director I produced a film with him, and we were talking about doing SAG ultra low or low budget films where SAG makes it almost it's unconscionable what they do to their actors, to the producers who are trying to give their actors work, who are 97, 98% of them are out of work, and are never going to collect on the pension that they're offering. Only the wealthiest actors who are working their own careers are going to benefit from that. And they have no system set up to really benefit the lion's share of their people that are union and pay dues. And what are they paying dues for? For this pipe dream. Most of them are paying into a pipe dream, and they're cashing in on that. And they're not providing more and more opportunities on a broader level. And I found that firsthand. I ran into a brick wall.
On pipe dreams.
I think this is.
And it goes back to what you were saying about the how all over there's people who are doing these acting classes, right? That are just taking your money. And I feel like it's institutional too here. I think a lot of the institutions are there to just take your money and play off your dreams.
Unions in general are there, and I know probably there'll be a hit out on me after this, but unions in general are there to just take people's money.
Well, they were set up originally, the unions here were set up originally to take on the major studios, and to make, and rightly so, because the major studios were doing all kinds of horrible things and taking advantage of people. And so they needed protection. But what they ended up doing was they ended up setting themselves up to protect actors, or whoever the union's protecting. And they stand up strong with another powerful force against a powerful force, right? And then once they kind of butt heads and then they kind of settle down, and everybody's like, okay, you're strong and I'm strong, we've got these deals in place. Well, then they turn around and go, well, who else will take advantage of it?
Yeah.
And that's what's the thing is, they're there for a purpose, and that purpose is to keep the big studios in check. But the whole industry has changed so much, and digital technology has caught up so much, where films can be made so, and television shows and all kinds of things can be made so cheaply. But yet SAG is still holding on to these ancient ideas, and they have not grown into. So all these actors, they still have to be union to do bigger things, but yet at the same time, they're chopping out their feet, or what is it? What is the saying? When, yeah, cutting off the nose to spite themselves. So
Space. It's well, I actually think this was the fall of equity in the UK. It's because equity used to be a powerhouse. Like equity is not like equity in the US.
Equity is
the union that does everything in the UK. It's like SAG after all wrapped into one.
Okay.
It used to be the powerhouse at SAG, but I think everyone just got sick of what's been happening in the US and just broke it basically. It's now not got the power it used to, and so I'm a member of equity, but yeah. They don't have that hold that SAG has over the actors. So, and I mean, they do help from time to time. They're not as I'm not going to get into stuff, but they do.
Oh, I got it.
They're not as
Just this for a second. Keep talking.
as powerful as SAG are, or as they used to be.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that production are going to continue to leave California, you know, and there's the jurisdiction
It's
of,
all the tax breaks.
the tax breaks and.
You look at how many amazing studios there are in London. You've got like 6 or 7 fantastic studios that are all offering huge reduced rates. So why would anyone want to shoot in LA when they can go over to amazing studios? Longcross, Elstree Studios, you've got the Harry Potter Studios, you've got the ones where they shot Gravity, I'm trying to remember the name of them, also in London. There are just endless amounts of top-end, world-class studios that are willing to give you rates that are much lower, so it's actually easier for you to fly your whole crew over to London and work there, which
you don't need to fly a crew because the part of the rebates are because you use local crew, right?
Local crew, I mean,
But they have local crew there that is a good base or crew base. Like in I know that in certain states that was a big problem where you could put a studio, you know, in like New Mexico or Arizona and then Atlanta had a huge issue. When we started with Atlanta. The biggest problem with Atlanta was that getting the incentive, I think like 80% of the staff had to be locally sourced. But they didn't have enough people that were good enough at their job to perform the jobs to have 80% of your staff be local. But now that has all changed because now Georgia figured that out and they kept bringing in, and now they have studios there and they're doing very, very well. Same with New Mexico. I think Michigan has some issues because nobody wanted to live in Michigan in the winter. But I mean, LA started as a film hub just because of the sun, and because also I don't know if you know this, but it was because writers had such a stronghold on content, and so what they wanted to do was they wanted to get away from the writers and the unions to come way out here to California on the opposite side. So it was that there was sunshine all the time, so they could film. They didn't have all those powerful lights, and they wanted to get away from the unions and the stranglehold that sort of the theatrical world had on content. And so, thus, you know, and there's a lot of vaudevillians who came here because the vaudevillians were the ones who sort of were breaking away from this.
Vaudevillians, who are they?
So vaudeville was like circus shows.
Oh, okay.
But they were doing some theater, but they weren't really allowed to, so to speak, right? So then as soon as big camera technology came out, a lot of them were vaudevillians. Cary Grant, for instance, grew up and he started vaudeville. But a lot of the silent actors were vaudeville performers. So,
That's amazing.
and you've done mime, right? Mime?
I've done a bit of mine, but only for fun.
Yeah.
Only for fun.
Who does it for something other than fun?
Well, yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah. So how's your film coming along?
Good. Yeah. We've got two films. We got Variant coming out soon. Probably in August. Look for it. Probably be on iTunes and Amazon, a few other places. We'll start there.
I have to say, I did like Variant.
Yeah, it's a great film.
I think it's a great film. Yeah. I would happily watch it again for the big screen.
We'll do a screening soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll set up a screening within a week or two. I think.
Cool.
Probably two. And
I'd definitely, yeah, I'd love to go and see that on the big screen, man.
yeah, we'll do that. And then A Birding Season, the other film that we shot in Iraq, will probably be out later this fall.
Cool.
Yeah.
Exciting times ahead.
Exciting times. So
Well, I've actually been invited to the Edinburgh Film Festival a couple of days ago for a film that I was in just before I came over here called Schemers,
okay.
which I'm told is looking good. Some great, I have to say, some really good up and coming Scottish actors in it.
Okay.
No named, but I have to say, watching them act was a real pleasure.
Schemers? Is it
Schemers, as in it's all based on a true story about Dundee back in the early music years, when all these big bands like Iron Maiden and
So
other
we're
bands.
talking the early 80s, mid 80s?
There was like a sort of mafia were controlling the doors of the music venues and trying to kind of muscle out the organisers and stuff like this. So it's about these guys trying to get these big bands into this place in Dundee and trying to make money out of it and trying not to be duped by these kind of, I would say, heavy gangster types.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Sadly, I can't afford to fly over to Scotland.
Sure. When is that?
Um,
Edinburgh Film Festival.
I think it's coming up very soon.
Okay.
It should be either the next month or the next couple of weeks. You know, it would be a shame. I went to the film festival with my ex-Jojo to watch You Want Me to Kill Him. Got all dressed up. They didn't even get me in the photos. I can't believe it. She got all elegantly dressed, and obviously we didn't get the memo because no one else seemed to dress up at all. So I turned up as like one of these
dressed up.
record things where I'm wearing a kilt, and all very elegant, and everyone's like in jeans and shirt.
So you had your ascot on with your little jewel.
Well, not that far. It was one of those moments where
There was no step and repeat or anything like that.
But yeah, that
should
was.
warn you for that.
I've been to the Edinburgh Festival that once.
Yeah.
It would be quite nice to go a bit again, but sadly, yeah. If I could afford to fly over there, I definitely would.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of things that, as an actor, you know, when you get to continually work and it's really important to be at those events. It's really important to shake hands and to show up and things. And it's a shame that you can't go. It bums me out for you, but and it isn't. I know how important it
Well,
is.
they're looking to shoot Schemers 2 next February, so I don't know.
I thought it was a true story. So
It is a true story. It is a true story.
And
It's
they have a second part now. To it?
it's a trilogy they've got
Gotcha.
down for it, and
Okay.
it goes on. It started in the back in the 80s, so
Is it like? Okay.
so it's an ongoing
It's-
thing.
Nicholas Winding Refn had Pushers. Did you ever see Pushers?
As in pusher, as in
As in like kind of drug dealers and.
the original one was a Danish one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
There's 3 of them, but they weren't based on a true story or anything. So.
This is all based on the guy who's represented lots of people. I shouldn't. I don't want to really muse. It's connected to. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the film.
it was shot on a souped up black magic camera, so it looked really cool. They put some cool filters in, so
Oh, nice.
I'll be interested to see how it looks.
Yeah, we use the black magic for variant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I like the camera. Not great in low light though.
Not great in the light, no.
Yeah, we tried to use that when we went out on a shoot, and we ended up using your Sony.
Yeah.
Sony's a great little light. That's why I got one.
Yeah, my Sony A7S, my powerhouse is still going strong.
Good.
Touch wood. I'll probably go home now and turn it on and it'll explode in front of me. I'm like, no, why?
Yeah.
So I shouldn't tempt fate.
Should always tip fate.
Should always tempt fate.
There, Gabe said it.
Yeah, you heard it first.
So Gabe, tell us about this painting.
I'm painting it.
You are. I've never seen you work with reds and grays like this before. I mean, I know you have, but I haven't seen one in a while.
Yeah, well, I just picked a color, and I wanted to see what I could do with it. I usually keep a simple palette, so I got a few selections of reds, some browns, and some grays, and so I'm just modulating the red with gray just to create a sense of space. And I'm really just focusing on shapes. So I'm trying to do 30 new paintings, like one painting a day for 30 days.
Wow.
So they make it increasingly less detailed as they go forward. But mainly it's just I was feeling unmotivated. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do next exactly. And so I figured, well, what if I just took my motivation out of the equation? I just did something that required me to like focus on like a game. So like,
Sure. Well, you take it from qualitative to quantitative.
well, I'm not getting rid of the qualitative part of it, but there's the technical challenge of not getting caught up in all the small things in a painting, like, and my thinking is that after getting into this, I'll learn something about painting in general that I hadn't thought of before, possibly. But really, it's about breaking out of my habit of trying to get caught up in detail. So instead of trying to render things, I'm just thinking about broader strokes, because I only have one day to work on each painting. And my thinking is that I'll go back after 30 days, or after 30 days, I'll have 30 paintings. There might be a number of them that are really cool and worth finishing, and that's what I'll focus on. So instead of getting caught up in a turd for 4 or 5 days, I discover the turds right away and discard them. And then the ones that stick out are the ones I'll focus on.
How long do you spend on each one every day then?
2 or 3 hours.
2 hours.
Maybe. Until I get tired of working on it. So I don't worry about them getting finished every day. I just see if I can get how far I can get on each one. So there's no time for tediousness and slowly rendering things together. It's like just gotta put it together. So one of the ways to do that is to have a simple palette, which is 3 colors, and then focusing on the shapes, the compositions. And once you have, like, even at this point, I could stop and start a new painting, and I have enough information here to really start dial it in, but I get too caught up in like the tediousness of rendering things to do that sometimes, and so this is just forcing me to do something different with the way I'm approaching it. And I don't know if it's going to work or not, but so far it's kind of turned out cool. I've got a few cool paintings going, and I might start doing go out and do some live, like landscape painting or something, some kind of deliberate studies. All that sort of stuff really helps on the technical side of making paintings. All the practice, so even though I'm not known for my landscapes, I kind of approach everything like landscape painting as far as how to create space and dimension and all that stuff.
So is a simple palette always 3 at least?
Well, I have a main color, like a main, which if you think of color in terms of hue is like red, green, blue, or whatever. So I pick one main color, which is red. I have a very warm red, which is this, it's called bright red, but it's not quite a cadmium. It's really warm, like fiery red. And then I have a dark red, it's listed in crimson. And that's closer to the purpley side of red, so it's a little cooler. So I have a temperature gradation there. And I also have raw umber and burnt umber, and those are earth tones, those are the browns. So like raw umber is like a greenish brown, and burnt umber is like a reddish brown. So again, I have a warm and cool, and that's a way of making the color darker, and taking down the saturation of the red, so it makes it less red. It makes it closer to a gray. And then I have several grays. I have a Payne's gray and a couple of what's called Portland grays from Gamblin, and those are more neutral grays. They don't have a warm or cool tone to them. So I'm modulating the red by knocking it down with the grays instead of using white. Instead of using black and white, I just have these premixed grays. And then so that it's also got a little bit. So the red goes throughout the entire painting, but it's in different variations of both how light or dark it is, how gray or neutral saturated it is, and how warm or cool it is. So there's 3 or 4 different ways of modulating that to create the sense of space within one dominant color. I have some green in my palette, which is the complementary colors to red, but I haven't really used any of it yet. I like keeping it this simple. So the things I've been working on this week have been focusing on shaping and composition, brush stroke, all that kind of stuff, so that all of that looks cool, and I don't really worry about like, does the drapery look right? Because even what I have here, you can see the silhouetted shapes make sense.
Yeah.
Something's going on. Trying to keep from getting caught up in my references, like you don't want references dictating the way the work's supposed to go. It's supposed to go the other way around. All that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting though. You do a few strokes and it looks like shapes, and I can see that the shapes would come into being. I can almost see them now. It's interesting. If I picked up a blank canvas and started putting shapes, you wouldn't. It would just be blobs on a piece of paper.
Well, we don't know that until you try it. Well,
There's a lot more going on in this.
I've been doing this a while too, so
Yeah.
so I think it's like I carve out things, like I'm carving out like all the shapes around the characters. One of the hard things when you work from reference like I do is that the reference, you can get too married to the reference, like it starts to dictate too much to you. And that's the trick, is to not let that happen. So by not giving myself a lot of time to noodle on things in the beginning, and just focusing on do the shapes look right, looking at the reference for some sort of guidance instead of trying to copy it, that's where that comes from. Yeah. So then it's just kind of fun.
And then it's just getting into it.
Yeah.
Doing the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you approach a character? I guess, like if you're doing a character study, you get it. So like, he's picking out colors and hues and mixing and matching and taking shapes and using an image that he's painting from. I mean, like what's your approach?
Well, I mean, you have to be very, very specific. You have to be, I mean, I'm trying to be less of an actual character and just try to be me. But, so, the whole thing with acting that I've been trying to do more lately is acting is not acting, it's just trying to live the life. So it's more of the people I'm working with, trying to associate them with people in my life or with people I know very well, so I can work off them and making everything very, very specific. So if I'm saying dialogue in something, I'm not just saying it because the words are written, I'm saying it because of the way this person makes me feel. Because I know this person is very, very specific, that person is very, very specific. I have history with that person, even though I've chosen someone to go in the place of that person, someone from my life or experiences in my life. But it's a lot of work, even for very small parts. I mean, there are no small parts. Only small actors. But yeah, a lot of work goes into it. It's very, very difficult. It's not. A lot of people think acting is easy. I think a lot of actors go into acting thinking that they can just do it or read the lines and throw them away. But it's just it's the small, tiny things that the camera picks up. You can either look at and go, that's a terrible actor, or that's a really good actor. Those are the hardest bits, and staying. Sleep is something that I need more of.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting into a character, you've got to really try and create this huge past of this character, and let those feelings dictate how you react, rather than trying to create a character as such. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to create a past and how I would react, rather than trying to create an actual character as such. Unless you're trying to do a comedy sketch or whatever, where you can try and make it.
You're going for the laugh and you're going for the timing.
Then there's a lot of comedy and stuff that, again, you don't do that, you just still create the character. You're not creating a character, so you're creating a past, and you're just putting it all deadpan, and it's funny because it's being done deadpan. But it's a long-winded process, and the problem with acting is you very rarely get enough time to create this history of this character. You're given a day, 5 sides of lines, and you've got to try and create this and live the life of this actor, and live this of this person, and then nail it every time. It's just, and if you're one of these actors out there that's got lots of money, then it's okay. Or you've got friends that are directors or family of directors, then again you're alright. Or you don't have to worry about making your rent check or buying your next food shopping. All these worries are out of your mind, and you can just let go and just deal with everything. But that is 0.1% of all actors. The rest of us out there are just struggling on, trying to make ends meet and trying to get into trying to work as an actor at the same time. So it's not something I would go out there of my way to recommend for someone to do, to be honest with you. The life of an actor
You have to want it.
You have to want it, which I do.
Listen, saying wanting something is one thing, because usually people who want it, that's what they do, they want. And that's what they don't achieve a lot of times, is they want to do things, but then they don't do.
They don't do anything to achieve.
You don't go out and get in the street or whatever it is you have to do it. It's not an option.
So I've pretty much given up my whole life in London to come over here and risk all the pennies I have in the world to do this. And a lot of people have called me crazy for doing it. Maybe I am crazy, who knows? But the thing is, if you don't try, you'll never know.
Yeah.
And it's the people that say, yeah, you're right, I want it, but then they don't actually do anything to the want. They just keep moaning about how they want it, but then they'll go and do whatever else.
The other side is people think that it's going to look like, they don't understand what success looks like. It looks like what you're doing. You're going through all these struggles. That's part of what success is.
Without the struggles and the pain and the misery, you can't really appreciate the glory and the warmth and the love and whatever else have you. You have to appreciate the goal at the end. You have to really suffer.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I honestly think.
Well, you don't have to, but you're likely to.
I have been. Without trying to make it too solemn, I know all about suffering.
But what I mean is that the suffering is is you learning this
Suffering's
failure.
part of it. It's also making mistakes. You have to make mistakes. Without making mistakes, you can't learn.
Yeah.
And that's people will get caught up in
Well,
too much.
if you succeed without making mistakes, or if you succeed without the struggle and failure, it's only a matter of time before the failure sets in, and then you don't know what to do with yourself. So like failure is a way of learning how to, basically a way of succeeding is learning how to avoid failure. And to learn how to avoid failure, you have to fail so you know what to avoid. Kind of a weird dichotomy in that sense. But
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah, try if you fail once, try again. That's not the same, but
that's pretty close to it.
something like that.
But those sayings are sayings, and so what I'm saying is that it's hard to understand what that really means until you're starting.
If
to go
at
through
first
it.
you don't succeed, try again. That's the same. And at the end of the day, if you don't, there are the people, and I don't know if they're watching now. If they are, please don't take this personally. Back in my hometown, they're always they're now there. They've been there their whole lives, and then maybe they're happy doing that, but they've kind of talked about what I've done, or I've gone out there. I don't want to live a mundane life. I want to live, and it comes at a cost, I suppose. If you want to go out
Sure.
there and get, it depends what your goals are at the end. You only have one life, and I think just to stay doing something that just gets you by your whole life, just so that you can live it out, seems a complete waste to me. That's probably why I've lived in so many different countries. England, Scotland, Australia, Sweden, Italy. Yeah, but I have to say my favourite's here, the US. I'm loving it here. California, especially.
I'm loving it.
California. Yeah, absolutely. California, amazing place. I do love it here.
Man, it makes me want a Big Mac.
Makes you want a Big Mac.
McDonald's.
Loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it all depends what you want out of life, I suppose, where you want it to take you. And I've had many discussions with friends back in London and Scotland, where they think I'm crazy to go out and just go out on a limb and say, but what if it doesn't work?
What if it doesn't? What if it
What if it
does
doesn't?
work?
What if it doesn't?
Well, how will I ever know if I don't try?
Sure.
So what if it doesn't work?
Or you could argue that one thing that, what you're doing now doesn't work. I mean, if you just stayed there, that's certainly not going to work.
Yeah, well, or the other thing is, I've never had a plan B because
I agree with that. I've mentioned that a number of times. I had no plan B when I came out that way. There was like the plan B. The plan was. I mean, I adjusted my plan because here's the thing. I didn't have a plan B, but I didn't have a plan A that was so rigid I couldn't adjust it. So, like when I came out to California, came out to try to get into background painting for feature animation, and it was the industry is over on its head. And it was all going digital, and I didn't have the resources or the interest in going into digital computer work. So, but the main goal was I wanted to make a living with my art. I didn't want to have a stupid job, and so selling my art in the street was a better option than working at Macy's folding shirts. Like I was willing to just like that was an option. There was no other plan B.
Yeah.
There was no other thing for me to do. Like I followed what was working, and that was selling on the sidewalk versus like working at a regular job until I got a real art job. I was trying to for a while pursuing illustration work and design work and stuff, but I was going to sell my art on the sidewalk before I worked at a job for minimum wage or some stupid shit thing. But being a painter and artist gives me a lot of opportunity to do that. Being a filmmaker or an actor, I mean, your version of that option is go out and do a street show.
No, but
somewhere.
what I meant by plan B was a filmmaker and actor is. So was my ex would say to me, so what is your plan B? I said, well, if I have a plan B, it means I don't fully believe in my plan A. Or if I'm not believing in what I'm trying to achieve. If I don't put everything into it, and I can still, it doesn't have to be rigid, but if I do start thinking about plan B before I even start, then I've got the doubts are already creeping in. If you have the crowds, don't take it personally, Germans. If you have doubts creeping in, then if you have the crowds creeping in, then you could be in trouble. No, yeah, I stuck to it, but yeah, maybe I don't know. I've worked doing all kinds of stuff, and if it keeps me going and keeps me on target for what I want to do, even though I'm living on the breadline, I'm going to keep doing it. It is quite stressful.
It is stressful.
There have been moments where I thought that I was about to run out of money, and I'd kind of like but somehow
that never ends. Trust me.
But somehow I managed to pull feathers out my bum and keep going.
Yeah.
Keep flapping away.
As they say, with bum feathers.
With bum feathers, yes.
I fly with bum feathers.
They keep me slightly elevated.
When I'm dancing like an angel.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jim Carrey said it when I think in his recent documentary that he said, you know, his father became an accountant and then was laid off later in life, and right when he was supposed to get his watch in 20 years or whatever, and it devastated his father. And Jim Carrey said, when I came to LA from Canada, his idea was, if my dad can fail at Plan B, why can't I fail at Plan A, basically, because when you go to Plan B or C or D or whatever, and it's not truly what you really want to be doing, you can still fail at that. It's not like Plan B is 100%, you know what I mean? And not and I tend to agree with that too. I also think that,
sometimes you got to do what you got to do. That's different.
Yeah, that's different. You got to do what you got to do, and I understand that too. There's nothing wrong with having a life, raising a family, growing up the way you want to grow up, and staying home in your hometown.
I'm quite jealous of some
Scotland
of my friends that got kids, and I'm still got those chances. So if there are any ladies out there, I'm available, single, Scottish beef, prime quality.
Well, I don't know about prime quality. A little beaten,
Piece it is.
little
Okay.
tender.
Very tender. Very tender.
Scottish beef.
Scottish beef. Aberdeen Angus.
Prime beef.
Plan A beef.
Prime Plan A beef. Yeah. I like to myself as a large fillet. Large
Plan A beef.
fillet.
Plan A
With a
beef.
bit of spinach on the side. Plan A beef, yeah. So, no, well, so that's about it, really. That's what it all boils down to. Keep on keeping on. Keep fighting the good fight, as I like to say.
Well, the thing is with acting is you can always get these auditions just keep coming in, right? If you're doing it right, or if your agent's doing it right, or something, or you figured out a way to.
I don't know. It's weird that if you look at all the big shows now, you'll notice that they're filled with A-listers.
Yeah.
And that's the problem as well. You'll see so many shows have almost got all the same actors in them. And they're just all filled with A-listers, and it just leaves the crumbs for the rest.
Yeah.
And the crumbs are thrown to this flock of pigeons who all then go flying in, attacking.
So the A-listers are like the seagulls and everybody else are pigeons?
No, the A-listers are the eagles, and everyone else is the pigeons. And so they throw out some crumbs, but generally they throw the big chunks of meat to the eagles.
As they do.
Every so often the pigeons fly with the eagles.
How do you get around?
and they think, well, look, I'm an eagle, but I'm not. I'm still a pigeon.
Every so often the pigeons.
I try and keep up with them, and then they just fly away.
That's hilarious.
So yeah.
So
I'm it would be I'm a pigeon dressed as an eagle. Sort of like mutton dressed as lamb of the acting world.
It's like a sheep dressed in wolf's clothing.
So a guy named Gregory wants to know if you're working from a smaller sketch before putting paint down.
Yeah, let me show you. I have a
commit to the toilet.
So, seems like this is my initial sketch. Show what that looks like. So I do a lot of sketches on Post-it notes for composition. You're not going to see that very well. But
Yeah, you told me that the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. Why do you do it on such a small?
well, I do it on Post-it notes because I can just whip through them, one thing, but it's such a small confined space that it doesn't allow me to get into noodling in details. It's just overall composition with a frame of reference. I have, the frame of reference, and then I block in shapes and the throwaways. I just do them, and then I find a few that I like, and then that's what I base the composition on. And so I focus on the composition first, and then start working into the details.
Nice.
Mingus.
So tell us about this image. Where'd you get this image from?
It's a top secret. It's from Reno, the painted D ranch.
Yeah, what was it called? Painted? Was it Painted D?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was a cool rancher.
Yeah,
Really, really cool.
and so he allowed us to come up and film some references up there, and we had a great time. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
The other thing too is I'm not used to painting horses, and so the struggle with it, like when I'm painting people, so my knowledge base is a lot bigger in the anatomy and all that stuff, so I don't really as much to make things look right. So the horses add an extra dimension of complexity. So this is a small painting. I may end up making this into a larger painting at some point. If I like the composition, I might expand it out so you see the other part of this horse. I don't know. I kind of like these cropped in things where things are going off the reference and really brings you up into it, so you're like, it's in your face kind of.
Yeah.
So other ones that you've been working on. So which number is this?
This is day 3.
Day 3. What are the other 2 that you've worked on so far?
No,
They're the same. It's basically the same sort of colors and concepts. So that's one thing is I've been doing to make it a little simpler myself is not having completely new setups every day at it.
Okay.
So I have some things that are consistent, so that takes some of the guesswork out. I didn't realize how noisy my chair is until I do these shows.
WD-40. That's the one that
Do you know what WD stands for?
Tell us, Wyoming.
It has nothing to do with Wyoming.
Wicked. I don't know. What does WD stand for?
Water displacement.
Water displacement.
So what's the 40 then?
The 40th formulation, I think. I don't know. You have to look that up. I'll ask the questions around here, Mingus.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what else I want to do on this paint too much. Backgrounds. So tell us your Italy stories, Mingus. Tell us about the time you got arrested.
We're definitely not going into that. That was X-rated.
It'd be horrible if we talked about that.
No, I don't think that's a very good idea to tell the world that story.
Now I'm going to be disappointed because I brought it up. Everybody is 3 people.
Yeah, all 3 of those people.
Those 3 people are going to be sorely disappointed in to hear your story, Mingus.
This is on Irish pubs. Yeah,
Speaking of, I just watched a movie with Peter O'Toole last night called Murphy's War. Have you seen Murphy's War, Peter O'Toole? Came out in 1971.
I don't think I have.
It's about an Irishman. It's at the end of the war, somewhere in Africa, I imagine. They didn't really specify where it was, up a river. And this German submarine was going up this river to sink a British ship, basically. And that's how the movie opens, with this German submarine up this river, sinking the ship. And then getting out on it surfaces and gets out, and they kill all of the English who are all trying to jump off the ship, burning ship. And then Murphy, Peter O'Toole, is the only guy who survives. And he's found by this little mission. There's this doctor at this mission, and with a bunch of tribal people that she works with, and they save his life. And in true Irish fashion, all he can think about is revenge. This whole movie is about, the war ends, but he has to sink the submarine with these Germans on. He can't let them go. Like, the Germans are done, and they're like, oh, the war's over.
But not for him.
But not for him.
It's called Murphy's Revenge.
It's called Murphy's War.
Murphy's War.
And Peter O'Toole is, probably at the height of his game. He carries, it's one, when one character carries the film so much, kind of like Tom Hanks in Castaway or something, where you just...
I hope he carried that film, because what was it going to be, the volleyball?
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Wilson.
Wilson was going to carry the film. No,
Wilson carried that movie.
But when you put other actors in this, he has other actors to work with in that film, but he really did. You don't believe in his crazy maniacal Irishness, that the film doesn't work.
Of course.
There's certain things I think that films have to hinge themselves on creatively to really make it work.
Of course,
And
absolutely.
you can, some films do better at some things than others, but there's essential things that need to be taken care of. Peter O'Toole was perfect in this film. It was amazing. And totally believable the whole time. He does an Irish accent the whole thing. And at the end of the movie, you're like, the Irish, they're all the same. Anyway, fun film.
I'll have to watch that actually. Murphy's War. Probably seen it somewhere.
So look at this. This is always fun for me when I watch Gabe paint. Is that he, in the middle of the painting there, he just put a little gray line, right? But you know that that's a horse's head, right? But there's not a lot of detail going on there, so you can already see the forming of these things. I don't know. It amazes me that. I know you fight with detail a lot, Gabe, but and not to have
It's a
too
love-hate relationship. Well, I don't fight with it. I just don't want to start out with it.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you feel this one is detailed, and it looks really cool, and then you realize that it's got to go because it doesn't work with the rest of the painting.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't want to be committed to something that doesn't work. Sure, I don't want to be wasting my time. One of the things I really strive to do is I want to be more efficient at what I'm doing. I'm impatient. I like immediate results, and I don't like wasting time on things that aren't working. And sometimes it takes a while before you figure out something isn't working, and then you've already. I think one of the biggest struggles artists have is they don't want to change or repaint something because they've already put so much time into it.
Oh, I've seen you wipe almost the whole painting.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it fun, so I try to avoid that if I can. And this is a really easy stage to like just play around. I don't have a lot of things on the line or anything. Like just push and pull these shapes is pretty inconsequential. But then when it's right, then you have these shapes right, then all the detail is easy to figure out. Detail is like making things look like they're supposed to look. Is kind of makes things cool. But if you don't have all the stuff down in the beginning, it's right. You just fight yourself.
Is that like when you're learning lines? Like you just read the lines and you got the broad strokes. I memorize the lines. Now I got to go in and I create all the details.
The whole thing is trying not to memorize the lines, trying to create the background of the history.
Why you're saying it.
So it's not memorizing the lines so that when you read the lines, they actually mean something to you. You've created a false past
So it sounds like you're just coming up with it on the spur of the moment, like you're actually.
So it's trying to do create a false memory. So if you try and put as much detail into that as possible, creating this backstory for this person.
So yeah, but that's not the detail in the acting. But that's not. So when I'm doing a painting, it's the same thing. It's like what's going on. I don't have to over-explain everything visually. If I know enough about the context of what's happening, then all the details fill in that. But so I can just do broad strokes and that's where it's at, because all the context and all the history is assumed. So if I want something to look and feel like someone's rampaging mad, then there's a body language that's there that people do without thinking about it. So it's almost like you have to be spontaneous on purpose.
Well, yeah, I agree with that totally. But if you create a backstory and make it as detailed as possible, and then let it all go, but it's almost in there in your brain as a false memory. So then it's still there, like it is a memory. So you can try and go back to that when you're saying what you're going to be saying. So you're not just saying the words because you're saying them because you're remembering something that you created. You've created this past for this character, but you're not holding on to that. It's like it's a memory, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So you've done the background work for it, and then you let it all go. So you don't have to hold on to it and try. Oh, I must. This line's written like this, so I must act that way. That's not the way it works. You could do a line or a scene 10 times 10 completely different ways, but none of them could be right or wrong. Not right or wrong. None of them could be wrong. They could all be right, but they're all completely different. It's just how you deliver them at that moment, or who you're acting alongside, how you're reacting to how they're delivering their lines or whatever, or how they're making you feel, but you've already done your homework for the false past, which becomes a memory.
Sure.
So yeah, it's all the background work before getting up there makes it all worthwhile. One thing that terrifies me is sex scenes. That would be something that I would really not want to do, to be honest with you. It's scary enough to have 50 people all watching you on screen. Well, not scary enough. But everyone's standing around with you there naked, with my willy gradually getting smaller. It's not really my idea of fun.
No. Yeah. Well, I guess on that note. Yeah.
What was the time?
It's 2.
You gotta get out of here, Mingus.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
2:10.
Oh, well, no, I've got a wee bit more time. I have to go into the bit. Go to my plan B. That's not my plan B. It's my plan keep. It's my
Plans keep alive.
It's my plan. It's actually my plan BGs. Staying alive. So I suppose it is a plan BGs.
What's your plan, Cardi B?
No, I don't do that. Don't do that. I don't have a Cardi B. No.
You don't have money moves?
No, I don't have money moves. No.
Sometimes you're Cardi B, sometimes you're the Bee Gees.
I'm mainly the Bee Gees, especially on Saturday nights when I got that fever. The corn now. I've got the corn out. I'm eating away.
You are.
Yeah, all the dad jokes come out at this time. You see, I am the king of dad jokes.
I have a bunch
You
of
are,
them
yeah.
myself. I used to have a lot more of them when I used to bartend. I would have all the cheesy jokes for everybody that came in from every walk of life. I had a joke for them. Now I can't remember. I probably couldn't remember one of them.
They're all licked. They're all locked inside my head. someone needs to say something to unlock.
That's true.
And then you're going to go, oh, I know a joke about that. There could be someone talking about something really serious, and I go, hold that thought, let me tell you a joke, and then we'll go back to that really serious conversation.
We'll talk about your grandma dying.
It's like, oh, that reminds me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's. I am a man. I suppose as a bartender, you've got to be a man of 1,000 jokes. You're a performer up there.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I was a performer up there
over
too.
20
I felt
years.
like too long.
It's your stage, and yeah, you've got.
And if you don't look at it, I don't think that you're doing a good job. I don't like if I sit down at a bar and my bartender looks like they don't want to be there, or then I don't want to sit at the bar anymore.
I don't also this okay. This is a touchy subject, but hospitality, you have to be hospitable. That's the whole
I
point.
don't know, you've been to Barbara's? No, I should say that, but they're great.
We're not going to stop serving you.
I don't. I
don't watch my
I almost.
podcast.
And people get upset when this happens, but I don't want to tip someone if they're not nice to me,
Yeah.
and they expect a tip just because that's what's
Expected.
expected. Bullshit. I'm not going to tip you. You're not nice to me. I won't tip you. Simple as. I'm there to have a good time and not just.
You're just not just another customer.
No, not just another customer.
You're Mingus Johnston.
Mofo Johnston.
That's right.
So yes, we won't go into that because that's a deepened subject that can only end in tears of misery.
Another slug of tears. We won't say trail of tears because it's a little touchy subject. All right, but we'll say the slug of tears.
Slug of tears.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, this is just totally random, that they should do if the world did a culling of all the knobheads in the world. I think one of the biggest places to be hit would be the gyms.
Oh yeah.
The gyms in the world are just filled with
Ridiculous people.
ridiculous people. Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, I don't know. And they're not just, men and women alike, they're all, some of them in the gym just think,
Why?
why?
I've seen some pretty funky workouts as well.
Some really funky
Some
workouts.
really, I say where there's no bad question, or there's no wrong question.
Well, the thing is, I made the cardinal error of going up to someone and trying to help them by saying, just to let you know, if you carry on doing it that way, you could really damage your back. I got a mouthful of abuse. So I've decided never to help anyone out ever again.
Ever.
Let them just
In a gym.
In a gym.
In a gym.
In a gym that I don't know.
You don't know, yeah.
Because I'm just trying to help people. Everyone
I think it's in the way like trying to help.
everyone just assumes you're on
And
to
it's funny because that person's going to go on that Scotsman that told me that my back and this and that.
And
And
he's
then
walking around
5
in
years
zipper.
later, they're like, my back. And they're like,
That's Scotsman. Yeah,
he was such a nice guy. Why was I such a jerk and now I'm a cripple?
It's because people don't understand that there are people out there that want to be nice just for the sake of being nice.
Sure.
And it's just like
And they get punished.
they do.
They do.
I do, I should say.
Yep, here we go. The slug.
It's like tears.
Mm.
Right, on that note,
Yep, it's probably time.
All right, thanks, Mingus.
thank you.
Thanks for being here, Mingus.
having me. It's been a pleasure.
And everybody else out there, happy Friday.
Yeah.
Happy Memorial Day weekend. And
We have any last questions?
Gregory, your finished work looks like it had a lot more preliminary sketching and planning into it. No, not really. I don't like planning that far ahead. All right, guys. We'll catch you later. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Go stop it.
Take care, guys.
Adios. Perfect timing. Look at that. My alarm went
Perfect.
off. Right.
Good, Mom.
So there's my painting for the day.
Cool.
A conversation I was able to stay awake for, I really enjoyed.
I'm glad we were able to put you to sleep eventually.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the case, just up late last night and the night before,
Yeah, traveling is
working.
tiring too.
Getting up early. So, and now I need to eat.
Oh yeah. What you guys got plans? You guys going to go somewhere?
Where we're gonna go?
Some
Going to Barbara's
We're
or
gonna go get some pho.
pho? You want some pho?
Pho is good.
Let's
Yeah.
go do pho.
Let's do it.
But I do want to
Feel
say
good about
that
it.
if you need to get out of the city and you want to take a nice long drive, I've got the perfect spot.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
go up to
Where's that?
up in the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Oh yeah, I'm going up to Sequoia National Park in a couple weeks, so not too far away.
Well, it is kind of far from there. It's way up in the mountains.
Well, spot
People
it.
call Northern California San Francisco, we're 5 hours
Oh, you're way up. You're way up closer to Oregon then.
north. No,
No.
It's still up. It's
still 2 or 3 more hours to Oregon. But
But it's really
I'm looking at that's the house.
Look up Mount
the
Lassen.
actually.
Okay.
it's the last active, it's
Two into, yeah.
still an active.
you're looking right now.
Oh,
We'll
wow.
be looking
But,
next week.
Yeah, we have some property up there and, we encourage people to come up that are our friends, can camp privately.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah. Yeah, my girlfriend and I were gonna go to Sequoia National Park and go camping for a few days. Yeah.
That's in Inglewood.
Trying to talk David to go up there with us. We got a huge group site. We got enough for like 12 to 17 people.
Oh,
It's not
nice.
bad.
We do it every year, and it's just usually the two of us. Everybody else can't make it. So we have a huge campsite to ourselves, which is kind of nice.
When you go?
Main Street.
We're here for the weekend of the 8th and 9th of June.
I know.
Yeah, you
What's
bring
that main
them.
street you gotta turn off of?
I don't know. I probably won't see it in Saturday.
We have a freshwater creek.
Oh, it's off of Western.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
going right through our property,
Yeah.
it falls out of the mountain.
Oh yeah, when I used to camp in the Bighorns in Wyoming, we had a campsite we'd go to, and it had a natural spring. We get our water there when we first get there. Natural spring water. Good stuff. Oh yeah, let me shut off this recording here.
Northern California